Peace, this is Jerome Constant. Today is the June news update. How you guys doing out there? Ladies, gentlemen, how's everybody feeling? Hope you guys are feeling good. We got a good one, alright? So the way I like to start these videos out is kind of just like reviewing where we are, where the world is, who we are as a people, and how we can actually get better as a unit, as a collective, as a unified field of oneness. Utilizing the principles of oneness in a collective is critical, especially for times like these, in days like these. Nowadays, everything that happens is based off a timeline of where humanity is, where humanity has been, and where humanity is going. And that's what's critical here to understand. Nothing happens on accident. Everything has a planned purpose. A lot of these events that seem chaotic are very orchestrated, and these things are happening along a series of timelines as we perpetuate through the Milky Way galaxy into our ascension. Okay, so one of the biggest things that happened are the riots that are taking place currently, probably still somewhere in the United States, for this No Kings thing, which is a complete psyop by billionaire Nazi globalist George Soros, who is a Jewish Nazi. So these billionaire financiers who try to start these fake revolutions in hopes to victim bait the susceptible masses into rioting against the actual world revolution that's happening now, with getting rid of Satanism on a global level, is happening. And if you know what's happening, you're just watching it and understanding that these riots are not for what these people think they're rioting for. They think they're rioting for some type of uprising against the monarchy, or against the oligarchy, or against the machine, or against Big Brother, or against whoever they think is suppressing them. Yet the light beings have won. We're actually here on the ground, and we're moving and we're doing things because of divine will, because of galactic law, because it's the right thing to do. Positivity will take place. Galactic energy is what it is, and ascension is happening, and nothing can stop it. So as positivity continues to spread, disinformation and negative action will inevitably ramp up until it's dismantled. So how these No Kings riots started was when the Trump administration started to raid and make arrests of a corporation in Los Angeles that was employing migrant gangs, illegal migrant gangs, doing money laundering, child trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, all of it. So what was happening there was the Trump administration going after the money that was funding those companies as a front. They were doing their company, their normal business up front, yet on the back end, underground, they were doing all this crazy stuff. Stealing kids, stealing people, selling drugs, killing, doing all this stuff. And there's a lot of money in that for big billionaire financiers who want world domination. So when ICE started to make arrests in Los Angeles, the No Kings thing happened. And when that happened, you have all these people who are already disenfranchised and downtrodden and manipulated and drained every single day of their lives. And also, some of them are very mentally ill. A lot of them, they show up at these rallies and they start to, they start to just protest. Yet it's not the people who joined in who are the problem. The first thing that happened was when the first riot was started, it was funded by these billionaire financiers to illegal migrants who will do anything for money, for food, for shelter, for heat, for air conditioning, for transportation. They'll do anything for anything because they have nothing. They came from a third world country, and they'll continue to do those things because a lot of them are also very mentally unstable and very mentally ill, and they're just out of control, raging out of control. So you see the beginning of last week, June 6th, you see all these migrant people just starting fires, kicking cop cars, kicking vehicles, blocking streets, burning pedestrian vehicles, taking sledgehammers and breaking up sidewalk bricks and throwing them in buildings, looting, rampaging, setting flags on fire, just a whole bunch of rampaging stuff. And you see that LAPD, not even there. They're not even present. They're not even like anywhere, even in the vicinity to stop these people. And it's just like, what happened to the cops? You know, and then you think like, who is the head of California? Oh, it's the same guy who paid the migrants to set California on fire last time in October? Gavin Newsom? Karen Bass? Oh, I wonder why this is happening and there's no cops and California is burning again. So what happens? The National Guard gets called in by President Trump. And right when that happened, right when the National Guard gets called in, and Marines also get called in, of course, they want to try and sue. They want to try and sue Trump and say, oh, you can't do that. We had it under control. We were doing this. Well, of course you had it under control because you started it. It was under your control the entire time. You want California to burn. You want people to die. You want that place to be a wasteland. How are you still even in office? Yeah, this is why I make these videos, because it's fun to connect the dots and see what's actually happening with individuals and how things are playing out. Yet it's not fun to look at this stuff actually. Like, you know, you don't want to see somebody's town burning. You don't want to see people taken advantage of and joining in as their town is burning, rioting against the same thing they think they're rioting against, which is completely ironic for them to actually even be out there. That entire No Kings thing was literally a complete psychological operation to get you to hate somebody who's actually making more change, who's actually making world change. The only reason why you have heard, or they have been calling Trump a king, well, first off, he's not a king. If you have to be elected into office and you have to fight people from trying to kill you, trying to slander you, trying to publish fake stories about you, trying to sue you, making up allegations about how you peed on a porn star, making up allegations of how you didn't pay your taxes and you're a criminal, making up allegations about how you hate black people and you're racist, make up allegations of how you should be in prison because you got arrested for fraudulent charges that they made up and there were no evidence out of. If you have to fight your way into office and actually still get elected out of all of those adversities, you're not a king. You're actually a real leader. You're actually a real leader who deserves the office. And what do they do towards people who actually deserve the office? They slander them, and then they lie, and they actually manipulate other people to say that, oh, he's one of us. He's the person who actually doesn't want you to have what you want. He's the one who calls himself a king. He's never called himself a king. And when he visited the Middle East, yes, they called him a king. They called him a king, a king of the world, because he was literally going into Saudi Arabia and releasing sanctions and doing all these wonderful things for the people that Joe Biden would not do, because Joe Biden was a fraudulent puppet, a pedophile fraudulent puppet. And people love Trump. The whole world, like almost the whole world, loves this guy. And it's just like, you see the fake media saying, oh, all these people turned out for this No Kings protest. 75,000 in Chicago, 30,000 in Philadelphia. Well, the combined population of both of those cities is 4.2 million. And 100,000 out of 4.2 million is not the majority. It's not even close. That's actually nothing. So we have showing up into these rallies are actually people who are mad Kamala Harris lost, who was also a pedophile, Satanist, genocidal maniac, who had to lie her way into office and continue to lie through her campaign trail and fake everything about her campaign trail, including her book. And it's just like, you know, those people who joined in on the rallies, there were only 100,000 people. They're not the majority. They don't speak for anybody. Nobody voted for Kamala Harris. If they voted for her and they want to show out and say this stuff about the current administration, allow them. But like, if the mainstream media continues to try to push it as some type of majority, it's never going to work. It's a delusion. It's the delusion of all delusions. It's actually comedic. It's getting very like ironic and very sad to have to watch this. Yet it's happening, and I'm reporting on it. It's wild because it's like all of a sudden there was just like no king stuff everywhere. Like last Monday, I was driving to the gym, and then there's a billboard all of a sudden with Trump's face on it, and he has like a crown, and it says, and it's got a huge circle and a cross over his face, and it says no kings. I was like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. What does that even mean? And then the next day I see the riots in Los Angeles. So it's just like these things don't happen immediately. It's like the public isn't even that organized to be able to be on the same level to operate that way, to orchestrate thousands and thousands and thousands of points to protest in and provide the funding for. If you look at what happened during the protests, they were being handed riot gear.
I'm trying to see
that doesn't look like food.
Yeah,
and
those
water.
are.
Looks like masks.
Yeah, no, those are masks. Yeah, so people are prepping for some sort of altercation with police as we speak.
Yeah, this is a different scene than what.
This intersection, like I.
Yeah.
They were being handed American flags, and they were being bussed in. It was like the fakest thing ever. It's just like, wake up, just look at this stuff, and it's just like, it's obvious this stuff isn't real. It's been manipulated, just like Black Lives Matter was manipulated. It was funded by the same people. It's just like the biggest victim bait ever. It's just like, don't fall into it. It's not real. It's not even worth your time. Yeah, it was literally May 31st. Trump put out a tweet on his Truth Social saying that Biden was actually killed. He was actually tried, found guilty by military court procedure, and hanged. And if you know anything about Guantanamo and the military tribunals that have been happening over the past 4 years, this stuff is real. This stuff is actually happening. There's been mass arrests happening ever since Joe Biden tried to steal the election, actually ended up stealing the election last go around during the presidency. And since then, Trump declared martial law through the Insurrection Act. And since then, lots of arrests, lots of jurisdiction by the Marines and by military security forces that are directly commanded by the president, and military officials have been quietly scooping these people up, getting them in cuffs, trying them in judicial procedures, and then taking action. So what Trump said on May 31st, he said, Biden's actually dead. We actually caught him, we detained him, we tried him, and we killed him because he's a traitor, because he's a Manchurian candidate. So if you know what that means, Manchurian candidate, literally the way Earth's timeline works on a political spectrum is there's a dark side and then there's a light side. Both of the dark side and the light side have time technology to where they can utilize time in their favor. Up until 2012, the new age of Aquarius rang in and the age of ascension began. And when that happened, the dark forces, time technology, stopped working. They were unable to see things. They were unable to go back in time and place their minions, their people, their reincarnates, and their levels of monopoly forces on the American people to continue to reign terror, wreak havoc, enforce slavery, all these things. So after 2012, they started to lose. Both of these factions have been around for a long time. It's really just all light, and then you have darkness that comes from outside the universe. So it's really only one faction here, because we control the reality now. We're actually here, and we're actually dominating again, and we're taking back our sovereignty. So you have these outside invaders who think that they're entitled to power and control and manipulation over somebody who they have nothing to do with, that they have no right to do this to. They have always thought they had the right to do this stuff. So what they do is make contracts with negative extraterrestrials and manipulate people around them to join them so they can have influence over groups of people. They also develop technologies for them to jump around in time and to screw things up on a timeline level, to where they can go back and pinpoint and place their people, their individuals, their nodes of chaos in a specific pattern, to where they're incarnating and then they're infiltrating into a political system or society or a country. The way a country works and the way of life is done and lived by a group of people, by the entire world. And they've done this for centuries, millennia actually, since the end of the last golden age. They've been doing this. They've been constantly taking stuff over, re-implementing, infiltrating, taking over again, dominating, and then rinse and repeat. They've been doing the same stuff. So that's how that works. That's literally how it works. Joe Biden was literally one of those people. He was one of those people who had decided to go somewhere else, who had done a deal with a group of people who deals with negative extraterrestrials who have timeline technology to be able to jump back into time, say, oh, now you're here, and now you're in this body that looks exactly like your last body. But nobody else on this time level can tell. So that's what they were doing. That's called a Manchurian Candidate. If you ever seen the movie Manchurian Candidate, that's kind of like, you know how it goes. So when that text was written, that was literally a testament to everybody who's been following the movement that's been happening since 2016, 2017, since the first QAnon post was made. Literally, Donald Trump was literally saying, I am Q. Q is real. We've been on the ground moving this operation since the start of day one, since we actually began communicating with the public who are in the know, who have been going on, who've been awakening, who have paid attention, who've been actually asking questions, and who've been seeing the real life events that have been happening in front of their very eyes. We're here. This is real. Time manipulation, timeline evolution, and galactic involvement and divine will is here. We're actually going to win this time. So that was huge. In that post, he literally confirmed, like, yes, we are actually here. We're doing the right things to save the world and bring us all back on the timeline of peace and prosperity. If you've seen, that tweet covered, you'd see, a lot of news outlets say, oh, Trump's just sharing a conspiracy theory. He said this. Oh, he's just joking. Oh, Trump, he's just it's one of his another orange man jokes. But no, this stuff is real. This like, if you've been awakening and you've been paying attention and you understand how deep the level of chaos goes and how dark the darkness gets, like they stop at nothing to try to infiltrate and control somebody. They want to keep somebody a slave for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. It's like, what do you think the financial system is? Like, that's literally what it is. It's like, right now, it's like, people are so attached to money, and they love money, and they think money is themselves because it's a reincarnation matrix. Literally, like, you get so attached and so identified and so driven to just get things and accumulate things and get all these things around you and do all this stuff and become this status icon and this individual who does these things and who has acquired these things. And you don't realize you're literally just feeding into the reincarnation cycle. You're feeding into the matrix. You're feeding into the levels of attachment and fear and greed and worthlessness, because people sell out for that stuff. People become sellouts. They end up literally like selling themselves. They literally end up not being able to understand that the treasures aren't outside of you, the treasures are inside of you. You know, you are the treasure. You are the most prized gift, which is what is most important. This isn't some type of random thing, some type of random happening. Trump is another one of those people who has been orchestrated and who has been placed into position by light forces to be a reincarnate of a very powerful being who is on the face of the planet changing things for divinity, for galactic law, for society, and for harmony, and for peace, and for love, unconditionally for the human race. Like, if you know what's happening, you'll see that. It's just like, you know, you see through the lies and the bullshit that the mainstream media tries to slander this person for, and you look at what's happening in the world as how it was during a fake presidency 4 years ago, and currently how it's changing again from the second presidency. It's just like, it's a no-brainer. You understand what's going on here. There's no questions. Especially if you know what QAnon is, and you've been following that, and you see what's happening, and you know the factions of military forces in play. It's just, it is what it is. So that was huge. That was really huge. When when Trump tweeted that, I was like the happiest I've been in a long time. I was jumping around, I was dancing, I was laughing loud as loud as I possibly could. I was blasting music out of my truck as I'm riding down the road. Like, that was like literally the best possible thing to happen. And then I'm just like, this is so awesome. And then my higher self looked over at me, and they're like, does this look funny to you? And then they gave me a psychic telecommunication, and then they showed me the underground lab somewhere off planet somewhere, where it's just like an endless room of cryogenic chambers with frozen clones of Joe Biden in them. So they're like, does that look funny to you? I was like, no, that looks terrible. And then they're like, think about what you're laughing at, son. Not all of this is a joke. You actually get cold wake-up calls of reality when you're seeing these things unfold in real time, and when you're paying attention, and when things happen that just seem like they're you know, it's just another crazy post the Orange Man made. Yeah, no, it's actually like really real. It's really what's happening on a depth of multiple levels if you've been following the chain of events. So it's important to stay grounded. It's important to stay in your center, and it's important to understand that things are just going to keep happening, and things are just going to keep spinning around you. And when you see these things happen, just process them. Don't allow them to have any major effect on you, and don't allow them to take you off center of who you are. Don't let them stress you out. Don't let them allow you to feel any fear, because everything's going to be okay at the end of all these things. All right? We're on the new timeline now. We're headed into the golden age, into 5D, so it's like only up from here. So with that said, I want to get into the next event. Right now, it's June 18th, before the fake holiday tomorrow. And right now, there's a war with Iran that's ramping up. So if you've been following the news, you've probably been hearing the government say, you've been hearing Trump say, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. They can't have it. And there's a reason behind this, all right? There's a huge reason behind this. And this may just seem like, oh, another Orange Man crazy statement. Like, no, this is actually based off galactic history. It's actually based off of past timeline events, past catastrophic events that happened because of Iran, unfortunately. So if you know Iran, you know it's like a war-torn place. You know it's very chaotic. You know it's very third world-like. And there's a reason because of that. It's because the energy is very low. And there's a lot of fallout energy that's been there. A lot of infiltrations and a lot of takeovers have happened there. And to get more into the history, this is going to be more of a history lesson here. So this has to do with the Annunaki. If you understand who they are, they're just like dimensional beings who are more or less negative, who have been trying to control humanity, for the past couple millennia, every dark age. And if you know the story between Enki and Lil, it's basically because of that. They're brother creators, and it's kind of just based off of like the story of duality, light and dark. And you have Enki, who's the positive creator, and then you have Enlil, who's the negative dark creator, or negative being, who just is about control, manipulation, and deceit and everything. And during the story, Enlil tries to kill his brother, and he ends up to bring an end to their society, which resided in Iran. If you know, like the temple, like the ziggurat of Ur, like those ancient temples in Iraq, in Iran, and in Afghanistan, that's a civilization, except it was like, prosperous. There's peace, there's freedom, there's awareness, there's high technology for oneness and unity. Yet Enlil wanted a new world order. So he enlisted, he had the councils infiltrated, and he enlisted people to destroy his brother. So the strategy to do that was to change the type of energy that they were distributing. So it went to another source, which is Saturn. So doing that, they changed the energy, and it ended up turning into a nuclear fallout. And within that nuclear fallout, everything got just destroyed. It's just like everything got destroyed. If you look at the energy of like Iran, that area, you just see this duality. You just see all this like form of events that happened. And once that fallout happened, it's just like that corruption just spread like a cancer. It went to Greece, which if you know Greece was amazing. Greece was also the same thing. High awareness, consciousness, directly connected to the gods, free energy technology, peace, unity, oneness, all of it. And those things came to an end when that fall happened. All that negativity, which causes pedophilia, homosexuality, transgenderism, Satanism, that's what it is. That's what all those things are. That fallout caused those energies, and those energies slowly spread to Greece. It spread to Rome. It spread to Egypt. All those great, amazing civilizations that we all past lives from, we have memories of, got taken over. It was because of that fallout in Iran. So that fallout in Iran happened right now. They don't want it to happen again, because it almost happened again with the last presidency, with Joe Biden trying to take all this stuff and make everything Satanist. That's literally what he was trying to do. He was barely an actual person. He was a clone in a body sent from some underground, who knows where, from some parallel timeline that's barely even in this universe. The guy was barely human, and he's doing stuff that's like barely human. He like molested his own daughter. He's a pedophile, and he touches little kids on camera. Like, this stuff we don't want in our country. We just don't want it, and we don't care about mentally ill people who protest in the streets saying that this is okay. Like, and they feel pride. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. Nobody's ever going to want that. So it's just what it is, and that's what it's always going to be. So more on this history. When this war in Iran happened, it continued to spread. Unfortunately, it got to Germany, and World War II broke out. So if you know the history of World War II, you just know what happened in World War II. You know that America didn't actually win World War II. We went on the ground, but by the time we got to the actual end game of it, we found out we lost. We found out that the Nazis they were actually studying way harder and way deeper and way more intentionally on different things, and they focused their efforts in different ways to have them exceed on the level of technology, to where there was a final battle in Antarctica, to where there's a huge fleet, a huge American fleet, like a ton of ships, something like, I don't know, probably, a ton of people, a lot of ships with 20 dudes in flying crafts that are, anti-gravity, free energy level, where it's like, high technology, and these dudes just ripped this whole fleet apart, and the war, was lost because of that. And when the United States lost to these Germans, they literally, had to work with the Germans, or else the Germans would have ripped the world apart. They literally would have destroyed everything. Now, I personally used to be mad at this part of the story, because I felt the United States had just been like, oh, we're going to join the Germans, we're now Nazis. But like, no, like they pretty much had to join. They literally had to allow Germany to work with the United States, or else everybody probably will die, because you can't stop stuff like that. You can't stop technology that's just gonna poof, it's gonna disappear, and poof, it's gonna come over here and just like rip through a whole city in like 5 minutes, and then it's just like, they could have done what they wanted. Like, the war was lost, and it's just like, so what happened with that was the United States did a deal with Germany, and during that time, Germany said, okay, we're placing all of our top guys into America's top places. So that's basically what they did, and since then, America became even darker. America was already pretty dark because they were already running financial slavery and making people just, be unaware that they're working in a reincarnation matrix based off of the fraudulent dollar. So that was already happening. Yet, when World War II ended, it got worse. And since then, things have been getting better. And as they get better, we realize that there is a way out of this, and things are happening, and things are more complicated than they seem. So that's what the Nazis have. They have the same virus that was contracted during the Dark Ages. In ways it's worse. In ways it's like, it got worse to the fact that they were killing millions of people who had nothing to do with them. Yet this virus that does mass genocide, you'll see today, same thing in Israel. And in Israel, same thing. So currently, you'll see the same type of virus happening today. So today, in these current events, everybody's wondering, like, why is Trump working with Israel? Who is Israel, and what do they have on America? There's something going on with Israel. Trump and freaking Elon Musk are like scurrying into the hall to watch Israel talk about crime and genocide on Palestine. One of the last times Israel visited, when he gave a speech. He gave a speech in like the House of Representatives, and it's just like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this guy's a crazy genocidal maniac. Why can't anybody see that in government? It's because when the infiltration happened with the Nazis making the deal with the United States, those Nazi generals or military officials, they're still in the world. They're still pulling strings and doing their thing since what happened in Iran. So it's like a frenemies thing. Like, it's like, you have to respect these people, yet you have to understand that there's also a war going on against them, which is obvious. It's like you have to smile in the person who is your enemy's face, because things aren't synchronistic enough yet to kick them out of the global venue yet. So you have to work with them during that time, or else you're risking world annihilation, and you're risking another world war. So you'll see Trump working with Netanyahu, and you'll see these things because Netanyahu has been manipulated by that virus, that same virus. It's literally that. Like, Netanyahu is a very sick person. He's been infiltrated immensely, and he's actually a Nazi. He's a person who is masquerading as a Jew, who is a Nazi, which is literally how it works. That's how like deep and dark this sickness gets. So that's literally it. It's like the sickness tries to identify as the victim it chooses. Things are coming into a better place because Trump's not a fool. He understands the game that's being played. And he understood who Netanyahu was, which is why he was trying to work with him to begin with. And now he's using him. He's using him to get control over Iran, because Iran actually can't have a nuclear weapon. Like, literally, there's too much negative energy and density and karma over there to be easily carried out again by these unconscious people with nuclear arms. Because it's like, if you're operating in a place where the dark portals are still open in the ancient temples, and any dark creator could walk out of those places and walk into the bodies of any of these Iran military officials and hit a nuclear weapon button and release it onto the world. It's just like, you know, it has to be handled. Now, as of right now, I don't think the way Trump and Netanyahu are handling it is the right way to go. I personally don't think Trump should be working with Netanyahu at all. Yet it seems to be in the cards as of right now, because Netanyahu is actually a Nazi who is from the breakaway civilization, whether he's been incarnated here from a parallel timeline as they have been doing it from centuries and millennia, from dark timeline reversal simulation playbooks, or whether he was just, you know, a normal Jew who grew up, who got converted or infiltrated by the negative virus that came from Iran, you know, from the last fallout. So whichever one of those two, I still think that Trump shouldn't be working with them. I don't think Elon Musk should be talking about like Israel as like a positive thing. Current government has to work with the karma that is currently in place in order for a potential higher reality to form. So as that happens, you'll see more unfortunate things happen as Trump continues to control Netanyahu and make Netanyahu think that he's making Trump do stuff, but Trump is actually, you know, since what happened last time, I explained it in the last video, Netanyahu was trying to control Trump, and then he got Trump to do too much, so Trump completely cut him off. So now, you know, Trump wanted to get a handle on Iran and stop Iran from doing things, so he's controlling Netanyahu to do that. They're actually like enemies, yet he's working with the enemy to neutralize a greater threat of unconsciousness. And it's just like, it sucks for the people in Iran. There's 12 million Iranians that have to be evacuated this week after what happened, and after they just completely brutally murdered their entire military complex over there. And it's just like, things have been happening. They haven't been happening gracefully, yet they're happening, and it's just like the fate of the world is on the line. It's like what Trump says, America first, yet he didn't even make that up. It came from like the 1930s. So that's what I wanted to say about these things that happen currently. This was only the past like 15 days, all this stuff happened. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll have to maybe do another video soon. Who knows? Because I don't know. It was only like 15 days. I didn't have to do a video at all, and then 15 days passed, and just like, holy smokes, I have to do a video now because there's too much that happened. There's way too much that happened, and things are getting very exciting just because things are working in our favor, guys. Things are happening and taking place for the good of humanity. Oneness is here, unity is here, peace and oneness is being reined in at the new age of ascension, and unity on earth and peace in heaven on earth is actually going to come into play. So just keep that in mind as things happen, and you'll see circumstances take place that aren't the best, yet they happen because things seem like they're getting worse before they're getting better. All right, so peace and love. I love you. Take care. If you guys would like a session, I do sessions at quantumlight.org. I do intuitive coaching, energy readings, numerology readings, custom art. I also have a t-shirt line. Actually, it's a whole clothing line. empathleague.com, check that out. I also do custom art and totems, energy totems. I'll get one for you right now. This is a galactic horse made of amethyst and selenite. Yet actually, if you see on the bottom, there's a spiral, and it's actually a light pillar. So what you have is energy that spirals counterclockwise through this totem energy and goes up through a terminated quartz point wrapped in copper. So when you place these anywhere in your house, you get an electromagnetic effect that expands about 30 feet in all directions. These things are very powerful. I've been using these things every day and creating more and more to place in specific areas in my home and eventually around the world. So if you would like one of these, check them out at empathleague.com, also Empath League on Etsy, and I'd be happy to accommodate you. Peace and love. Talk to you soon.